Hello again, and welcome back to Farrand on Film. Following last week's episode on John Hughes, this episode will take you through all the required learning for the GCSE set text, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Ferris Bueller's Day Off was released in 1986. The film revolves around Ferris and his friends Cameron and Sloane ditching school for a day in Chicago. Like all of the films by writer-director John Hughes, on the decision, Hughes said, "I really wanted to capture as much of Chicago as I could, not just in the architecture and the landscape, but in the spirit." So why are we studying Ferris Bueller's Day Off? As you know, Paper 1 of the Film Studies GCSE is focused on the key developments of American film. Question 2 of Paper 1 is focused on the second of two films that form the base for our US comparative study. In order for us to effectively compare and contrast the early developments of American film, we are required to compare our film for Question 1, Rebel Without a Cause, with a film released in the 1980s. Before the main comparative analysis of Question 3 takes place, we get to Question 2, which is essentially a stylistic copy of Question 1, but focused on our 80s film, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. As mentioned, the typical layout of Question 2 is essentially a copy from Question 1, so it's three smaller stepped questions about some element of film form: cinematography, sound, editing, mise-en-scène, narrative, representation or generic conventions, and how they are used in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Generally, you'll be asked about one element of film form, so question A could be, identify one example of cinematography in your chosen film for 1 mark. Question B would then be something along the lines of, briefly explain what this example of cinematography typically suggests for 4 marks. Now again, typically suggests refers to how this example of cinematography, or whichever element is mentioned in the question, is used generally across all films. So you might say that a close-up is used to direct the audience's attention, create a sense of closeness in a scene, or emphasise a character's emotions or expressions. The final segment of question 2 would be explore how this and other examples of cinematography are used in at least one key sequence from your chosen film for 10 marks. So again, I'm not going to go through any model or exemplar answers now because I'm going to save that for a whole of the podcast, but I will go through what are going to be some reoccurring pointers for tackling those exam questions. So the idea of a stepped question is that they ease you into writing longer responses, but then link in with each other. So your answer to question 2A, identify your example of cinematography, links to 2B. So what does this example of cinematography typically suggest? You will lose marks and possibly even score 0 if you answer 2B about something completely different than what you'd written or given as an answer for 2A. So if you've written close-up for 2A, you need to discuss the typical use of close-ups in 2B. Finally, this may seem obvious, but the term from your chosen film has been known to throw people off in the past. There are a total of 5 films or 5 pairings of films that the exam board provide us teachers with. We then pick one film or one pairing to teach you, for you then to answer the questions about. Your chosen film for question 2 is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. When you get to question 3 for the comparative analysis, your chosen films are Rebel Without a Cause and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So where can you find Ferris Bueller's Day Off? The film is available to buy online for $4.99 from iTunes, Sky Store, Google Play and Rakuten. You can also rent it from those providers for about half the price of a purchase. If you would prefer the old school way of doing things, a new and sealed copy of the DVD from Amazon is about $6.95. But the way in which I'd imagine most of you will choose to watch Ferris is on Netflix, as the film is available to stream on there. So let's go through some context for the film then. The 80s economic boom meant that teenagers found it easier to afford cars, and as such led to selfish teenagers. Ferris is annoyed because he got a computer and not a car. America was the most powerful nation in the world and was winning the Cold War. The feeling of this invincibility can be seen in scenes like the parade where the whole country appears to be unified. John Hughes, as previously discussed, is considered to be an auteur of the teen genre. The appeal of teen films is that it allows the audience, whatever age they may be, to relive their high school years, and in this film allows us to relive high school as the most popular kid in school. Teen films often have a critical view of authority in high school. The character of Rooney embodies this, but Ferris's parents are seen in more of a sympathetic light. High school is simply shown to be boring, but not dangerous. In the 50s, the teenager was born, and there was an element of fear surrounding that generation, so that notion of ephibophobia, the fear of youth. In the 1980s, teenagers did not need to battle their parents, they had already won. Teenagers were celebrated. However, an obsession with labels and designer goods meant that status was tied into external symbols of wealth, which Ferris has in abundance. Generation X were called the latchkey kids. Due to changes in society, these teens had less adult supervision than previous generations. MTV was launched in 1981 and became the voice of a teen generation. Ferris offers us an alternative to the usual outsider protagonist that usually guides us through high school. Instead, we have the point of view of the most popular boy in the school, and the direct mode of address used places us at his side as being equally popular. A classic Hollywood narrative structure is used. The happy ending offers the audience pleasure and reward. So we begin with the equilibrium. So Ferris, a popular student, comes up with another plan to get his own way. The disruption, Rooney gets wind of Ferris's day off and plans to follow up. The recognition, Ferris and his friends are constantly aware of having to dodge adults. The repair, Ferris runs out of time but manages to run home just in time. And the new equilibrium, only Rooney, Jeannie, Cameron and Sloane are aware of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. For some further reading on Ferris Bueller's Day Off, check out James King's book Fast Times and Excellent Adventures, The Surprising History of the 80s Teen Movie, which is available to buy on Amazon. In the book, James King goes in depth into the production and the legacy of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, some of which I'll read you now. Ferris Bueller's Day Off might have been the story of one man's struggle to take it easy, but that one man was doing what countless teenagers dreamed of doing, bunking off school so that he and his friends Cameron and Sloane could have one last great time together, especially with adulthood looming. But dreams were bigger than reality in Ferris Bueller. Everything about the title character was highly idealised, from his clothes to his behaviour and his vocabulary. An impossible teenage work of art who is borrowed from a range of styles and subcultures before offering them back as a little something for everybody. Thanks for listening to the required learning for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'll be back soon with a full film commentary for Ferris to support this required learning and your revision for Paper 1. You can help support Farrand on Film by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Farrand on Film, by following us on Twitter at Farrand on Film, by liking us on Facebook at facebook.com/Farrand on Film, and leaving a 5-star review at your favourite podcast provider. Stay safe, stay indoors, look after each other, and I will see you next time.